Hey, everybody. I'm Jack Loring with Cousin Jack Carves, and this is the International Association of Woodcarvers. Pull up a chair, hang out for a while.
All right, guys, good afternoon and welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today is September the 10th, 2022, a little bit after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I appreciate you taking time out today to come in and join us. I want to let you know today is the 93rd meeting of the International Association of Woodcarvers. We started these meetings back at the beginning of COVID, and you can see how far we've come. Our intention was to have these meetings through COVID, and we continue to meet every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because we believe it's important to promote wood carving. So thanks again for taking time out of your Saturday. Thanks for coming in and joining us. And today on our meeting, we have Jack Loring coming on. He's going to talk to us a little bit about his carving journey, go through a demonstration, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his antiquing. Before we get started with that, I want to tell you a little bit about what we've got going on, some things that are coming up. Next weekend, we will not be having a meeting on Saturday. We're going to be preparing to travel out to Colorado for the first annual CCA Carving the Rockies meeting. We're going to out there on the 24th, and we're going to be broadcasting live from there at that show. So if any of you are in the area and you get a chance to come by and say hello. Again, we'll be broadcasting 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from out there. So it'll be a little bit earlier, I guess, out there. But it'll still be 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when we're broadcasting live. After that, on October the 1st, Chris Gardia is going to be coming in doing a demonstration. On October the 15th, Nikki Reese is going to be coming on doing a painting demonstration. October the 22nd, Bob Hershey is going to be coming in. He's going to be doing a cottonwood bark demonstration. October 29th, Rod Gatlin from the Charlotte Woodcarvers is going to be coming in and talking a little bit about the Charlotte show and his carving journey and how he got involved with setting up carving shows down there in Charlotte. And then November the 19th, Ryan Olson is going to come on. He's going to do a demonstration, and he's going to be doing a class later in the year. So we look forward to hearing from Ryan then. Some of the workshops that's coming up, Janet Cordell has a workshop on carving the female face in cottonwood bark. That starts on September the 30th. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Janet. Dave Stetson, who's on here today, has a bookworm seated reader class that's starting on October the 1st. If you're interested in that, reach out to Dave. He'll give you the information as far as getting the rough outs to prepare for that class. On October the 8th, Kevin Applegate's going to have a Bride of Frankenstein class. It's going to be 2 days. On November the 5th, again, Dave Stetson's going to be doing a Santa class that he does every year. It's going to be his yearly Santa class. So again, that's November the 5th. And then December the 3rd, Bob Hershey's going to be doing a raccoon Santa class. So make sure you reach out to all these instructors if you're interested in signing up for these classes. They'll give you the information, give you the payment information, and go ahead and get you signed up for all those. Having said all that, we're happy to have Jack Loring in with us today. He's coming to us from Tampa, Florida. Jack, I appreciate you taking time out today to meet with us, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to you. If you'll just give me a second to remove my spotlight, and I'll get over here to Jack's.
All righty. Thank you, Blake. And thanks for having me. Happy to be here. And as far as the carving journey goes, it started for me in 1987. This was my first carving right here. It was from a piece of cedar that was laying on the ground. I was working in a wilderness camp for emotionally troubled boys. They taught me to carve with these old Zacto sets. And this first carving, I put on the date that I was getting married. I figured I'm going to carve that and I'll never forget my anniversary. And so we just, Sonny and I, we just celebrated our 35th. And I can tell you, fellas, little advice for the gentlemen out there: never criticize your wife's choices, because you were one of them. So today I want to talk a little bit about the carving journey while we carve stuff. And in particular, football has been kind of a important part of my carving journey. So I've got these little football guys, and we'll work on one of those today. And as we do, I'll tell you more about that. And the way that I got started. Like I said, it was in a wilderness camp, 1987, and there wasn't a lot to do. There was no electricity, right? We lived in these platform tents that we built out of pine trees that we cut down. And so without a lot of distractions, people got into wood carving. Those boys some of them were very talented. And I learned from them and kept on going from there. So let me give you a little bit of the setup information on this carving that I'll be working on today.
Hey, Jack,
Basically,
before you get started, I failed to mention that we're going to be auctioning the Helvie knife in the chat. Let me do that real quick before you get started here. I apologize for interrupting you.
Go right ahead.
All right, guys, sorry about that. We are going to be auctioning off a Helvie knife today in the meeting. This is a rough out palm knife, bird tail handle. Rich and Holly Smithson was generous enough to donate this knife. It also has a sheath that comes with it. The blade is 1 3/4 inches, and the handle is 3 5/8 inches. The proceeds to this auction is going to go towards the International Association of Woodcarvers so that we can continue to have these meetings. So if you're interested in bidding on this knife, we're going to do it in the chat like we normally do. Highest bidder will win. We'll run the auction throughout the meeting. So if you're interested, go ahead and put your bid in the chat, and I'll stop it at the end of the meeting. And then the winner will need to stay on at the end of the meeting so that we can gather your information and get your payment information and your mailing address so that we can ship that out to you. So again, we thank Helvie for sponsoring us, for donating the knives. You'll see their sign here over my shoulder. And I think I saw Rich and Holly join us just a few minutes ago. So I'd like to thank them for that. And Jack, I apologize for interrupting you, and I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
All right, no worries, Blake. I've got my Helvie in my hand right here. So working with a 1-inch square block of wood, and on the height here, it's 1 3/4. These little guys are fun, quick, easy to carve, and I've carved a bunch of them in different styles and different types of holidays and occasions. The football season is kicking off, so I thought it'd be appropriate. And these are great for like a school fundraiser or a craft show. Just add your team's colors there, and or your local team's colors, and let people come and get them. So on these feet, I start down here at the bottom with a 1/4 inch square, 6 millimeters, and you'll see I've got these center lines on all the sides of the carving here. To get us started, I did rough out this side because you don't want to see me do it twice. So on this center line, I come up 1 inch, make a little dot, and then around that dot, I just put myself a 1/4 inch square. Now you'll see the front of the helmet coming down this way, and that's the 3/4 inch mark here. So 3/4 up from the bottom is where I put that mark to get that droop on the helmet. Over on the side, I take the front of that foot and just draw a line from there, kind of angle it back to where that center line is. And then from the bottom here, going up 7/8, make a little dot for the ear hole on that helmet. And then 3/4 inch up for that piece of the helmet there, the bottom on the side. On the back, that's pretty straightforward. It's just from the bottom up 1 inch is the bottom of the helmet. And then there's this other piece here, which back in the day anyway, you had helmet that had these white or gray sort of plastic pieces that would cover up the edge of the helmet. And that's what that is. All right, so first thing I'll do is just kind of notch in this foot. And as I mentioned to you earlier, the sport of football and notch in underneath the helmet, knock off the corner. Sport of football had an important, I guess, impact on my carving journey. Like I said, I started carving in '87. And then in the early '90s, I got into officiating football. You know, blow the whistle, wear the striped shirt, get yelled at a lot. And what I learned once I got started, got into it a little bit, I found out that I was really good at getting yelled at. I'm just gonna put some stop cuts around this nose. So I kept on getting hollered at for 23 years. And it was a journey. While I was doing that, somewhere around probably 2003, just bringing out the nose a little bit. Around 2003, I began, I was officiating high school football and college football. And then I started working for the NFL. They asked me to do some scouting for them. And I did that for 6 years. But I was doing all these things. I had a full-time job in the fire department and, family commitments, and something had to give. And it was the carving. There was a period about 15 years where I really didn't carve because I was doing all that other stuff. But I don't officiate football anymore. So I've been able to pick up the knife and get a few new tools, and it's been a great time. All I'm doing now is trying to round this beard at the front and at the same time bring out that nose, kind of notching in the foot at the bottom here. And we'll just bring that out a little bit. So the carving journey got reinvigorated one day. I was on YouTube. I think I was probably looking at football videos. Anyway, I saw video that looked kind of intriguing. And it was Doug Linker doing the Bob K Simple Santa. And I thought, I could do that. Where's my knife? I have to go find it. And that's really what got me back into carving again. And I've really been enjoying it. Let's bring in some stop cut here. I'm going to relieve some of this wood next to the nose. Just continue rounding this beard. These little guys are actually inspired by Donald Mertz. Yeah, you've probably seen some of his whittle dwarfs before, which are even smaller actually than these little guys. But yeah, the concept itself and then the style very similar to the way that Don makes those whittle dwarfs. Just made a stop cut here, bring that foot out, and I'll go ahead and bring a stop cut around the bottom of this helmet too, while we're at it. One of the things about the design on these, they tend to be pretty square on the back end. I don't really round off the back. I leave that pretty square. But of course, if you want to alter this design, make it yours and have fun with it. I'll just go ahead and bring out that foot. I like to angle down to it a little bit, give it a little bit of a 45-degree angle along that foot, and then work up the side. So since I got back into carving again, I've had some opportunities to collaborate with some other folks who are also sharing information about carving. I was contacted by a young woman from Italy named Sarah. She put together a blog called Whittled Lovelies. She reached out to me and asked me if I would participate in her blog, have an article, which was great. It was great to meet her. Also had been invited by the North Carolina Woodcarvers Association. Norm Burtness asked me to do a presentation for them, and that was a good time. I had a good time meeting the members of the club and talking with them, learning from them too. Then the Chip Chat folks reached out to me and asked if I would contribute to Chip Chats magazine with an article and a pattern, and I was happy to do that. All right, so this body is looking good. I'm going to start rounding off this helmet here. One of the things I've found is that there's a lot of resources nowadays for new carvers. When I first started in '87, there were books, right? And I didn't know about a lot of other resources back in the day. But now, yeah, there's so many opportunities for new carvers to learn. On this side over here for the ear hole, what I'm going to do is just grab my paint stick real quick. And there's lots of ways you can do this, right? Use a Dremel or whatever. My old paint stick here has a pretty small wood screw. I'm just going to make myself a little hole. For the ear. And get back to it here. I'm going to bring these corners off the front of this helmet too. We don't want to have that square look to the front of it. And yeah, I'll be putting those lines back on with my pencil here later.
Hey, Jack, while you're doing that, I know you have a bunch of YouTube videos out on YouTube that are available. You were talking about resources. Can you talk a little bit about your channel and what you offer there?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Blake. I was interested in getting a channel going, and that did near the end of, I guess it was 2020. I put together some videos, mostly for beginners. I thought, for me anyway, I was inspired by Dennis Stallings. Dennis had a channel on YouTube. It's still out there, right? And I started looking at his videos, and then I got, I was on Facebook, and I got one of these notifications that said, hey, you should probably reach out to this person. They like the things that you like. I guess that's how they have some kind of algorithm, something. And so I did. I reached out with a friend request to Dennis, and I discovered that he had passed. But I thought to myself, that's pretty cool that he has left this legacy, these videos for people like me and others who will come after him and still have an opportunity to learn. And that got me thinking about it. And then I decided, yeah, I'll give that a shot. And I have to say, thank you very much to Blake and to Dave for putting together the International Association of Woodcarvers, because I know how much work goes into this. Blake is carrying the heavy end of the log, folks. He's putting in the time and the effort. I really appreciate it. Yeah, on the channel, I do have quite a few videos, and I got another one coming up pretty soon. Another one of these little guys, but it's a little autumn theme deal. You see these little guys with the acorn for hats, and that'll be my next video. I'll do a little tutorial on on the little Acorn guys. All right, I'm going to grab my pencil now. Come back in here and put my lines in place. So I want to come up about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom edge. This is going to be that what used to be white or gray plastic piece that would go on the front and the back of a helmet. That'll be on there.
Jack, a question in the chat. Somebody asked about the fact that you gravitate towards smaller carvings. Is there a specific reason for that?
Yes, there is. There's not enough room to store these things, and I don't have a shop. So they get put on the shelf in the house, and that's the main reason. Yeah. I do have some things that I've done that are a little bit larger, and I do have some ideas about some larger things too. With the channel and the content for beginners primarily, I do try to keep it relatively simple. And I find that a lot of the folks who are starting out, they tend to have these 1x1 blocks that they buy on Amazon or someplace, you know. And so I do have quite a few of the things that I've done that tend to be relatively small. The thing is, for a lot of beginners, carving a larger project or figure might be actually easier when it comes to putting in, you know, all the details. Right now, I'm just kind of coming up here. I put a stop cut in place, and now I'm going to separate out. And that little chunk came out there. And alter this now. This is a good example. When something chips out, just redo it. But yeah, Blake, a lot of them are pretty small. And that can be challenging. All right, so just like I said, if you're working on a piece and something breaks, usually you've got plenty of material to get back at it. I have found in a few occasions, super glue was needed in order to get done with what I was doing, but very often I'll just go ahead and redo what I was doing. And we'll just take this nose down a little bit here. Okay. Going back in with this stop cut again. One of the thing about the little guys, it's an easier thing for a beginner because there are no arms to mess with, you know, no limbs, right? It's more or less just a body. And I've done them in different styles. Many times I have these guys with a little beard and a mustache. I think what we'll do today on this little guy is we'll do the beard without the mustache. And we'll check it out.
And Jack, is most of your carvings knife only, or do you use V-tools and gouges?
I do tend to use more knife only types of whittles, you know, but I, I have plenty of tools. Let's put it that way. Hope my wife didn't hear that. She heard it. Anyway, the majority of them tend to be knife centric, let's say. Yeah. Now at the top of the helmet, I'm just going to put about a 1/8 mark going back across the top. Now this is where you would have that seam back in the day anyway on the older helmets. But yeah, Blake, the gouges and the V tools and all, I do have plenty of them. And I got into some vintage tools a little while ago. Some of these gouges and things that were made back in the 1800s over in Sheffield, England, with cast steel. There's a little skew, really old. So a lot of them are, 80 or 100 years old, but they're really good. They hold an edge really well. I like them. Yeah. All right, just making a stop cut now where I put the pencil marks. Now with this end grain, of course, there's different ways that you might want to approach this. I suppose the easiest thing would be to take a wood burner and just put these lines in. But I tend to use my knife to do this. And I will go over it very often later with the wood burner. But yeah, the vintage tools have been kind of fun to mess around with. Picked them up on eBay. And some of the makers that you find, you have the Sorby, and there's an American maker named William Butcher. And those are really good tools that I've found. And then I've picked up some tools at estate sales too. Yeah. All right, just going to bring that out a little bit here with the stop cuts that I put in. But for the most part, yeah, you could do these little guys as a one knife whittle. It'll work. There's nothing on here you couldn't do with a knife. Now, in the interest of time today, when I get to that beard, I will use some gouges and a V tool and that, because if I went at it with my knife, it might take a little longer than I'd want to spend on it for today. One of the things that I've found, I guess probably within the last year, was found that walnut oil works out for me to help raise the grain on some of these carvings. And before that, I was using that Minwax 209, that natural wood finish, and it helped. It brought the grain out and it worked well. But the walnut oil that I'm using is all natural. It's food safe. Just got, I think, a little safer properties in it for me. Now, I'll show you that bottle that I use here in a little bit. All right, so just come back up here to this front. Continue bringing that nose out some more. Like I said, with this guy today, go ahead and just work with the beard rather than the mustache and the beard. I'm just going to get under that, right near the top of that nose, just kind of separate that a little more. Let's go ahead and take care of that foot. With these little guys, the beard comes down in between these two front feet. I don't take too much material away from the side of these feet. I want to leave some there for the beard that's coming down there. All right. And we'll get rid of these bandsaw marks and the marks from the pen. And bring the foot out a little bit more. With the beard, you can see I've already kind of cut it in on this side. I like to start just in front of that ear hole, right here near the bottom of the helmet, and come to, I guess, about 1/8 of an inch back from the front of the foot, like that. We'll just kind of draw that in on this side. Start right before that hole, and just kind of round that down to about like this. And we'll put in our stop cut and start bringing the beard out a little bit more. Yeah, it was probably not until I got back into carving again, Blake, before I actually got a decent set of gouges and V tools and everything. Before that, I pretty much used a knife for everything because of what I had. And it was good when I finally got myself a carving knife instead of those X-Acto blades. But of course, when I first got a carving knife, and I think my first real knife was probably somewhere around 91, something like that. I immediately made a trip to the hospital. Because I didn't have a glove. I wasn't aware that gloves were available to me, but it wasn't long before I found myself one. All right. Just doing a little shaping on the nose here. Fortunately, I haven't had any accidents in a long time.
Hey, Jack, another question. You do a lot of small carvings. Do you usually do it with a longer piece like that, so you can hold on to it, or do you have some kind of device you attach it to if you're not using a longer piece? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I do like to keep a longer piece as a handle. I don't always. Sometimes I'll just work with a pretty small piece to start with, but wherever I have the opportunity. It makes it easier and safer if I have the longer handle on there. So I usually will go ahead and carve it, and then later I'll cut it out on the bandsaw.
We have another question in the chat. Somebody said that you used to use tennis racket wrap on your knives and want to know if you still use that.
Yep. Yes and yes. I do use it, and I took it off of this knife today so everyone could see the beautiful handle on this Helvie. But yes, I do. I do use the tennis racket wrap, and it's got a great grip to it. I really enjoy that. And for the most part, it's I think it helps me from getting too fatigued with my hands when I'm carving for a long time. The stuff I use is made by Wilson. It's actually what they call an overgrip. It goes on the handle of a tennis racket. All right, I think we've got that roughed out for the most part. Just going to round off this back piece here. Now, the only thing what I have found, there are some knives, depending upon the way that they're finished. If there's a handle on the knife that doesn't have a good finish on it, what I found was that some of that color from the overgrip wrap it could leak into the wood of the handle. That's not something that's a problem with these pack-a-wood handles that you get with the Helvie knives. Not a problem. And even some of the other knives, they have like a varnish, a clear varnish that's got a decent finish. Then there's really no problem with the overgrip. So yeah, I still use it. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and pencil in a little bit of a beard line here for this guy. Or actually, before I do that, I think I'll go ahead and put in his smile before we put in the beard line. What I like to do when I'm putting the smile on these little guys is I start from the bottom of the nose, come down about a 1/4 inch, make a little dot. And then wherever the bottom of the nose is, I come out to the side about 1/8, make a dot, and 1/8 from the other side. And then form the smile. And then, of course, I'm going to start with a stop cut over here. Dig it in a little bit with the tip of the knife. Again on this side. And then a stop cut along that pencil line that I just put in there. And then we'll just cut up to it. Take out just a small sliver of wood there. This is a Helvie medium detail, and I'll tell you, it's a great knife because it's big enough to where you can remove plenty of wood when you're roughing a piece out. And then the profile on the blade is also pointy enough where you get some good detail in your piece too. It's really probably my go-to knife is the medium detail knife. But like you said, I do more small figures. And I have experimented a little bit with carbon foam, that high density urethane foam. And what I found is it carves kind of like wood. What's different about it is that the chips, of course, are polyurethane, and so they carry this kind of a static with them, and so they tend to cling to everything when the chips come off. It's kind of an interesting experience, and it's of course not biodegradable or anything, and so you have to dispose of your chips in a different way. But there are people who do power carving with the high density foam too. And if I was doing that, of course, yeah, you want to wear some kind of respirator, protect your lungs. But I always used hand tools when I was working with that stuff. And I guess it was Marty Dolphins who he had a website that I think he was getting ready to sell or shut it down. I think it was called easycarving.com. That's where I used to buy the high density foam that I was working with. I used it more as a way to build myself a 3D model for some of the things that I wanted to carve before I carved them in wood. And it worked out pretty well.
So how is that foam on your tools? Do you find yourself having to sharpen more because you're using it or not, or
You know
about the
what?
same as but
It's a good question, Blake. I was curious about that when I started using it. What I found was no, it carved a lot like wood, and I didn't really have to do any extra stropping or anything with the tools. It's actually less dense than a piece of basswood, at least the stuff I was using. It had a density of like 15 psi, and I guess basswood was about 20. All right, so in the interest of time, I'm going to take some gouges here and start putting in some contours for this beard. But the foam is, I guess, depending upon where you get it, it can be expensive. When I bought it, it wasn't too bad. But like I said, I believe Marty, who had that website, I believe he was getting ready to shut it down or sell it, I think is what he was wanting to do. And I haven't been back there recently to look to see if he's still in business. But the foam really gave me an opportunity to, set up a carving in a 3D sort of a model that I could use as like a go-by for when I went to carve it into the basswood, and it worked pretty well. Let's go ahead and start putting in some of these features for the beard. I want to curve my lines wherever I can. Like I said, very often I use my knife for the entire piece. There's so many different ways to approach it. And there's some that I've just roughed out the beard and then did everything else with the wood burner, put in all the fine details on the beard, the mustache, everything. And the burner that I have is the wire tip burner made by Walnut Hollow. I got that one because I wanted to get a wire tip burner without spending $100, and it's been good. It's been reliable. Just come in here with this tiny little V tool now and add a few more little beard lines.
Jack, while you're doing that, I'm going to remind everybody we're taking bids for the Helvie knife in the chat. For all the new people that's joined us, we've got a 1 3/4 inch blade, 3 5/8 inch handle, bird tail handle knife donated by Helvie that's going to go to support International Association of Woodcarvers and allow us to continue to have these meetings. So if you're interested in that, you'll see the bids over in the chat. High bid will win, and we'll call it at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, that's a pretty good looking knife too. All right, well, for the most part, we've got this guy roughed out. I just want to show you some of the stages that I would go through with one of these little football players. So after I've got it carved, next thing I'll do usually is get the wood burner out and burn in some of these lines and details. Once I've burned it, then I'm going to get the walnut oil and just use a paintbrush, small brush, to apply the walnut oil. And I think you can see here how that helps to raise the grain a little bit. Now this isn't quite dry yet. I just put the walnut oil on it last night, but it certainly does give it a look where it starts to raise that grain compared to the pieces that I don't use the walnut oil on. And let me just show you that bottle. It's from Mahoney's Finishes. And this one, they call it utility finish. It's basically heat treated filtered walnut oil, not that distilled oil that you would find in a grocery store, but it is heat treated. So that means it won't go rancid. And it's food safe. There's a lot of wood turners that use this. They make salad bowls and, you know, spoons and other things. And they use this walnut oil as a finish because it's food safe. And I do like it. I like it. It's easy to apply. And I've had good results with that. And like I said, it's all natural, non-toxic. So after I've applied the walnut oil, then I'm going to paint it with acrylics and then seal it. I do use a water-based polyacrylic. And that's been working well for me. And here's a little guy that I sealed. And of course, I burned it, painted it, sealed it. And I'll just go ahead and apply some antiquing real quick and show you that. It's pretty easy. Get rid of some of these chips. All right, so the antiquing medium that I'm using is what I learned from Chris Hammock, right? He calls it turd polish. I said, why is it called turd polish? Chris said, because you can take a turd of a carving and make it look real good. So, so that's what I've got here. And I'm just going to use an old hotel toothbrush here to mix this up a little bit. What it is, it's a mix of Minwax, aged oak, gel stain. And that's combined with some odorless mineral spirits. That's all it is, 2 different parts. And what I do is I just come in here with the brush and apply it. And I don't worry too much about where it goes. And what this will help do is get down in the crevices there in that beard and any other detailed piece that I want to bring out with the antiquing. I'm just going to come in with a shop towel here and start wiping that off. Now this will usually dry within about 20 minutes or so. Although most stains, they'll tell you, look, it's going to be 6 hours before you should apply another set of finish to it. But now what I tend to do that Chris didn't really mention to me, but if I've got a spot where some of the antiquing has stuck to it and I don't like it, is I'll just take my shop towel, get a little mineral spirits on there, and moisten it with the mineral spirits and come back over that spot. Make sure that I've got the antiquing where I want the antiquing and that it's not on the spot where I don't want it. But yeah, it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. It gets down in there in that beard and helps to bring out the highlight. The important thing, of course, when you're working with the antiquing is you have to seal. You have to seal real good before you go ahead and start with the antiquing. Otherwise, you'll probably just have a mess on your hands and it'll look dirty and kind of undo all the work you put into it when you were painting. But that's what I wanted to cover for today. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, just another question about your YouTube channel. How often do you post there?
Yeah, it depends what I've got going on, Blake, but I try to put out a video at least every 3 or 4 weeks. I've got plenty more ideas than I have videos. I can tell you that. I do have quite a few ideas written down, and I'll have some things coming up. Like I said, I'll be working on these little Acorn characters will be my next tutorial. And then I've got some ideas for some Christmas ornaments that I'll be putting together too. Yeah.
Jack, it's Dan from Canada. We're just wondering, could you share your address?
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube. It's just, you can find me on YouTube,
Yep.
Instagram, Pinterest. Just go ahead and search on Cousin Jack Carves.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll be tagging all of that stuff in the YouTube video that I post out there after the meeting's over today. So if anybody's interested in finding Jack and you don't remember how to get a hold of him, go to that video and you'll be able to find all of his links there. So any other questions for the group today?
Hi, Jack. Doug from California.
Hey, Doug.
Can you tell us the recipe for the antiquing?
Yeah.
The ratio?
The ratio of it, yeah. So what I try and go for, it's probably about, I'm going to say 40% gel stain to 60% mineral spirits, right? It's fairly liquid.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I use the polyacrylic. The interesting thing about that, it's water-based. And you're working over water-based paint. So if you do use the water-based polyacrylic, you have to make sure that paint has cured real well. And then what I do when I'm working with it is I use a smaller brush and I put it on relatively gently so I don't cause any of that paint to run, because a water-based polyacrylic with water-based paint can be an issue. Just have to be careful. But I like it because it's so easy to clean up, easy to clean the brushes, everything. It can work. It does work. Just have to be careful when you're applying the polyacrylic.
All right, Jack, I think that's all the questions in the chat. Just want to let everybody know that I'll be closing the bid on the knife here in just a few minutes after I have a few more closing remarks. But just want to say thank you for coming on today and presenting for us and sharing all your videos. I told him before, I'm an avid watcher of his videos out on YouTube. There's some great information out there. So make sure you take a chance to go out and look at his videos and the content that he provides. And like he said, once we're gone, at least that content's going to be available out there for future carvers. And the main thing is to keep this going. So Jack, I want to say thank you again for coming on and presenting with us, and look forward to seeing you on future meetings. Also want to remind everybody that coming up for the September 24th Carving the Rockies show. More Rough Outs is going to be providing the wood for that show, and they're going to be taking advanced orders. And the last time that you can order wood for that meeting to be picked up there at the meeting is the 20th. So if you're interested in placing basswood orders and picking it up at that meeting in Colorado, you need to go ahead and contact them before the 20th and get your order in place so that you can pick it up to make sure that they have it available. Again, remember that we'll be off next Saturday. We'll be broadcasting live on the 24th at the Carving the Rockies show. So I look forward to either meeting a lot of you all out there or seeing you all on the meeting live there, that we're going to be sharing some of the information. Again, Jack, thanks for coming in today. Thank you all for joining us with the International Association of Woodcarvers, where carvers are helping carvers. And again, have a great weekend, and we will see you all live on the 24th. Thank you very much.
Blake, what time are we looking at Eastern for the 4th?
It'll still be 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm not sure what is 2 hours behind out there. So I'll be broadcasting whatever it is, 3 p.m. Eastern here.
Thanks.
We'll go ahead and call the auction on the knife. Looks as though the high bid is Robert Larson. So Robert, if you'll stay on, we'll go ahead and gather your information. Thank you all for joining us today.